What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. Today I've got a bit of a two birds with one stone project. We're going to be getting the radiator pulled out of this Yukon for a customer, and we're going to be pulling the electric fan system for a project of my own. Let me show you how we do it. Okay, so like I said, I need to get the radiator out of this Yukon. A gentleman wants to buy it from me. He needs it for his. But I want the electric fan system, the fans and the electric wiring that runs them, for another project truck that I just picked up the other day. I'll show that to you later in the video. But let me show you how to get this electric fan out and how to get this radiator out. You can see that I've already removed the driver's side fender, the grille, the front bumper, and the headlight mounting brackets. So those are pretty self-explanatory. It's a bunch of bolts. They're pretty easy to get out. Admittedly, the radiator and fan are pretty easy to get out before, but if you've never done this, hopefully this will help. So the first thing I do is remove the little intake tube. It only takes a couple seconds. You just need a flat blade screwdriver. The next thing I'm going to do is get the antifreeze draining. This radiator does not have a drain valve, so I'm just going to loosen the lower radiator hose on the passenger side and let the water drain out there. And then I'm going to get to work on unbolting everything that needs to be unbolted up here. I've got my antifreeze draining into a pan. While that drains, I'm going to start getting everything else that I need off of this. So pretty much every bolt in the front end is either a 13mm or a 15mm or a 10mm. You really only need those three sizes. So I'm going to take the front dress off, the extra core support, the air conditioning condenser, the mounting bolts for the fans and the radiator, and then the 6 10mm bolts that hold the top of the core support on here. I'm saving the hardware, and I'm going to save the top core support cross because I'm not sure if the truck that I'm putting this electric fan into has the right core support, and I know it doesn't have these bolts. Now to do this, you don't actually have to remove the AC condenser. You can leave it where it is, but I know this truck's not going back together, and I've already evacuated all of the refrigerant out of it, so I'm just going to go ahead and take the AC condenser off. Okay, since the truck I'm putting this electric fan setup into currently has a mechanical fan, I want to try to get this electric fan assembly as complete as possible. So I even want to get this little plastic hose holder because the other truck doesn't have it. So I'm going to use a flat blade screwdriver to squish the clasp and then open it so I can take the radiator hose off. The upper radiator hose is just held in place with some spring clamps. You can open it up with just a pair of pliers. You've got a couple other hoses up here. All of them are held in place with spring clamps. You can undo them with just a pair of pliers. Now I have access. I can reach down from the top and unplug the two electrical connectors that go to the electric fans. There's also a little gray wire retainer that I'm going to open up too so I can reuse it on the other truck. Now that I've got those parts off, the electric fans should lift right out. Before I decided to use these, I verified that they work in both low and high speed, so I know they're a good donor to swap into my project. That leaves us with fully removing the lower radiator hose and disconnecting the transmission cooler lines. The transmission cooler lines are pretty simple to undo. there's a little plastic cover. You move that plastic cover out of the way, and then there's a circlip that holds the line into the radiator. You pry that circlip out with a small pocket screwdriver, and then the line itself should pull right out of the radiator. Be prepared when you remove the lower transmission cooler line, transmission fluid is going to come out of it. Now I'll let my antifreeze finish draining, that little bit of transmission fluid drain out, and I'll be ready to remove the radiator. Okay, I've got 99% of the antifreeze out. All of the transmission fluid has run down out of the radiator. Now I just lift the radiator up off of the mount, and I can sit it wherever I need to until the customer is ready to come pick it up. Now the other part of this is the wire harness for the electric fan assembly. The electric fan wiring is made into the entire front wire harness here. It also has the light wires in it. It has a few of the ambient temperature and air temperature sensors in it. So I need to remove this whole harness to get it out. I may be able to just put this harness into my project truck. I may need to just take the electric fan portion out of this harness, but I won't know until I actually get to take the truck apart. Okay, so that whole front wire harness comes into this green connector in the back of your fuse panel. That's just held in place with a 7mm bolt. Once you loosen that bolt, you can pop it out with your screwdriver. Just like so. Now also in that harness is your separate electric fan control panel. This has your high speed and low speed relays, as well as your main power supply and your fuses for all three of those functions as well. Once you get that loose, there's another wire retainer down here that you can undo, and then one connector. It has blue and green wires going into it. You unhook that connector. There's another connector down on the side. It's substantially bigger than the blue-green connector. You get that one undone. And now your harness is loose from the fuse box. Power distribution center, if you will. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. You also have your main power feed to the electric fans put onto the power post here in the fuse box also. That's also a 7mm nut. And if you're super lucky like me, it's seized and rounds off. So now we get to fight that. Okay, well, I tried mechanical means. I couldn't get that bolt to come loose, so I just ground the head off of it. I got my main power feed into the circuit board loosened, and also now have my power feed for the fan system free. So the only other thing I need to do is unbolt the PCM support bracket. The wire harness runs between that bracket and the battery tray. So I need to get that PCM support bracket off, and then I'll be able to get my wire harness free. There we go. Now I have my whole front wire harness free from this truck, and I'll be able to compare this to the one in the other project truck to see if I need to just take the fan part out of this one, or if I can just easily put the whole thing into the other truck. So speaking of the other truck, let me show you what it is. Ta-da! This is a 2006 2500 HD two-wheel drive with only 91,000 miles on it. It has the 6-liter LQ4 engine and only 91,000 miles on it. I'm pretty sure it's all entirely original drivetrain. Part of what got me excited and made me decide to keep this one is it's a totally rust-free truck. And living here in the mid-Atlantic in the heart of the Rust Belt, you don't come across these very often. I picked this one up in non-running condition. The guy that I bought it from told me it had been brought to him running, but that it had stopped running while there and they hadn't been able to figure out why. And the owner had lost interest. They didn't want to work on it anymore. He was frustrated with it. So they sold it to me for $500 as you see it, but it didn't run. It took me probably about 6 to 7 hours of diagnostic time to finally find that I, one, had a faulty multimeter, which is why the diagnostic took so long, but two, had a ground wire to the ignition coils that was broken inside of the insulation. So once I replaced that ground wire, it started right up, works and runs great. I haven't had it on the road yet, but it does drive well just on the private road here and back around the yard, around the shop. So as you can see on this side, this is the only significant body damage to the truck that I don't have the ability to repair myself. Fortunately, there are millions of these trucks driving around and sitting in people's yards that have perfect, very nice doors on them. I've already found a set locally that I'm going to pick up in a couple days. So as you can see, it's a pretty cool truck. At least I think so. I think it's going to be a fun project. It's the first two-wheel drive truck I've ever owned. And I'm pretty excited about that too. Something a little bit different than what I'm used to. I feel like this is turning into a long video, so I'm going to end this one here. The next video will be getting those electric fans installed onto this truck. It should be 95% plug and play. I may have to add the wire pigtail to the PCM, but it's only 2 wires and it's not difficult to do. And if I have to do that, I'll make sure I show you that process also. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're as excited about this project and seeing the evolution of it as I am. And we'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.